Good morning, everyone. Once again, we welcome you all. Today, I take this opportunity on behalf of the Ramanujan College Organizing Committee to welcome our esteemed speaker of the day. Respected sir, thank you for accepting our invitation. Professor Prakash Narayan is currently working at the Department of Adult Continuing Education and Extension, University of Delhi. Sir specializes in counseling and guidance, lifelong learning, and sustainable social development. Sir has published several books and various research articles in reputed journals and has delivered numerous lectures and talks. Sir has guided many MPhil and PhD degree students. Sir is also the member of governing body for Keshav Mahavidyalaya College and Indraprastha College for Women. Thank you once again, sir, for accepting our invitation. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Namaskar. Dear Dr. Agrawal, Principal of the College, Ramanujan. To be more precise, Dr. S.P. Agrawal, Principal of the College, Ramanujan. Dear brother, Dr. Alok Pandey, Rajiv, Nirupama, other people associated with the organizing committee of this induction program, and our fellow colleagues and friends. So to begin with, I'll just like to tell you a little about why did I choose the research, the topic, which is research in higher education, right? An overview, why? At the outset, I'll tell you my ignorance that I have not been a very great researcher so far as social science goes. I've started in the last few years going a little deeper into the realm of research. And then only I have been able to encounter, and I have been encountering problems which I'll be sharing with you all today. So, my topic, as probably is known to you, is an overview of research in higher educational institutions in India. An overview, research in higher educational institutions, an overview. Before I begin, I'll start with the Rigvedic Richa. Ano bhadraya kratavo yantu vishwatah. That is, let the noble thoughts come to us from every side. Before we start our lecture per se, I'll be giving you a brief introduction to the way in which I like to interact with all of you today, this morning. Of course, I like to start with an introduction, and I'll try to introduce how this research in higher educational institutions in India also has had a very glorious past. So far as Indian history goes, we'd like to go a little into the ancient India so far as the research, this knowledge goes. And thereafter, I'd like to introduce you to some of the techniques of research, right? We'll be talking about it. Thereafter, I'll also be talking about the funding, etc., how the funding is being done, and what is the latest, the statistics pertaining to research in higher education over the years, of course. And thereafter, the problems which we have. And of course, towards the end of the day, I like to have
सर आपका आवाज म्यूट हो गया है सर अनम्यूट कर लीजिए सर
Hello.
जी सर अब अनम्यूट हो गए जी सर
There was a call. What can I do? I'm sorry.
No problem, sir. No problem.
I'm sorry. Okay. So, to begin with, again, I'll be repeating once again, let the noble thoughts come to us. Hello.
Yes, sir.
I'm so sorry. What can I do?
No problem, sir. Ab continue karte hain.
I'm so sorry. So, my fellow participants, I'm sorry for the little interruptions which I'm having. in terms of a call I'm getting from somewhere. I'm sorry, I can't. So please bear with me. So the thought, so I'm starting with the noble thought which we are witnessing in our Rig Veda, one of the ancient texts available to us, wherein there is a very clear-cut meaning of the Richa, and that Richa says that whatever new, whatever Sreshta Vichar in Sanskrit, in Hindi, if I can say, Sreshta Vichar, jahan se bhi aaye, let it come, provided that is a Sreshta Vichar, provided that is a noble thought. So this has been our intellectual pedigree. Right, you must understand this. So I have started this interaction with this Richa of Rigveda. Right. Thereafter, I'm coming to the research, a historical background. That will be section 1, a brief section in which I'll be talking about our historical background so far as India goes. Of course, we are speaking in the context of India only right now. So ancient India was a land of rishis and munis, shagas and seers, as well as a land of scholars and scientists. The research has shown that from making the best steel in the world to teaching the world to count, India was actively contributing to the field of science and technology centuries before modern laboratories were set up. Many theories and techniques discovered by the ancient Indians have created and strengthened the fundamentals of modern science and technology. While some of these groundbreaking contributions have been acknowledged, some are still unknown to the most. The center of higher learning in ancient India were unique in their organization and scholarship during those distant times when elsewhere in the world, very few had thought of organized education at the university level. Just to name a few universities we had in ancient India, the prominent ones were Takshashila. This was the oldest university of the world. Well-known graduates of the university includes Chanakya, Panini, Charak, Vishnu Sharma, etc. Another notable university we have Nalanda, Vallavi, Vikramshila, to name a few. Sorry. The research and development. The research and development in ancient India have notable contributions. The contribution of Indian civilization can be divided into categories such as mathematics, construction field, uses of materials, uses of natural resources, medical field, shipping, trading, geography, and astronomy. Few of these contributions are given as follows. One, so important, very important. The whole world knows about it probably by now, that the idea of zero, the decimal system, okay. These were the ideas which were from India, originated here in ancient India and went to the rest of the world. Then, of course, the heliocentric theory. Then, of course, Fibonacci pattern. Then, of course, oozed steel. No, a famous steel, oozed steel. Smelting of zinc, plastic surgery, cataract surgery, Ayurveda, etc. Of course. Chairs, snakes and ladders, buttons, high-grade steel manufacturing, the art of navigation, playing cards, the gymnasium, the university rock, almost every geometrical instrument, the cultivation of cotton and jute, mining, the concept of gross domestic product, all have roots in India. Right. So now, so the question arises, and you'll be, all of you may be knowing, or if not, probably must know it, that in the first century AD, India and China together accounted for about 50% of the world's GDP. So what worked for India? What worked for India was definitely its knowledge system. making India leading exporter of wood steel, among many other items to the Europe. Gift of gift of wood still to Alexander by Porus. There is a very famous and pleasant story how famous was wood steel that Alexander, that Porus gifted while of course Alexander was retreating and going back. Porus gave him an sword made of wood steel. So was metallurgy and chemistry. So to briefly summarize that the ancient India had a great tradition and a great receptivity towards new knowledge, innovations. And that's the reason why the Richa of Ayurveda makes it very clear that let the noble thought come from wherever it comes from. That makes it very clear that the ancient India and the minds were very receptive to the novel thoughts and to the innovations and to the new learning. So now thereafter, I am coming to research as I'm just interacting on and giving you an overview of research in Indian higher education institutions. So let's also talk about research. What is research? Its tools, various tools, and of course the whole procedure involved in research. So now I'm coming to research proper. What is research? Research is an organized and systematic way of finding answers to questions. Sorry. Scientific research is systematic, controlled, empirical, and critical investigation of natural phenomena guided by theory and hypotheses about the presumed relations among such phenomena. Then, the process of finding solutions to a problem after a thorough study and analysis. This is research. That is a process of finding solutions to a problem after a thorough study and analysis. So, then also research is a systematic inquiry that provides information to guide decisions. Now, let's talk about the important components of research. What are the important components of research? We very commonly use research. So we must know the important components of research. I know that this may be a repetition. Many of you may be knowing more than what I know. But then, of course, as a protocol, since I'm talking on this, so I'm just giving you some information. Important components of research. What are the important components of research? One, very important to begin with, problem statement, research questions, purposes of research, and benefits of research. These are the important components of research. Then, the theory, the assumptions, and the background literature. Then next, variables and hypotheses. Next, operational definitions and measurement. Next, research design and methodology. Next, instrumentation, sampling, data analysis, and then comes conclusions, interpretations, and recommendations. Means after research, you also have to recommend. We all have to recommend after we finally conclude our research. So this is also a very important component of research that we have to conclude, we have to give interpretations, and then finally we have to have recommendations also. Then finally, we are writing a report, a paper, or an article. So these are the important components of research, right? Many of us may be knowing it. Of course, many of us know it, rather most of you know it, maybe knowing more than I know. I'm just explaining a little about all these things. What is problem statement, purpose, and benefits? Very briefly, I'm touching upon. What exactly do I want to find out? This comes in problem statement, purposes, and benefits. One, what exactly do I want to find out? Next, what is a researchable problem? What is the researchable problem? Next, what are the obstacles in terms of knowledge data availability, time, or resources? Finally, do the benefits outweigh the costs? Now, I'm explaining a little about the theory part, assumptions, and background literature. All these I already have pointed out, important components of research. So now I'm just explaining, really touching upon, not explaining really, the theory, assumptions, background literature. Right. What does the relevant literature in the field indicate about this problem? This is number one. Which theory or conceptual framework does the work fit into? What are the criticisms of this approach? How does it constrain the research process? How do I know for certain about this area? Next, what is the background to the problem that needs to be made available in the reporting of the work? Now I'm coming to the next, variables and hypothesis, a little just touching upon very briefly. What will I take as given in the environment? That is, what is the starting point? What is the starting point of a research? Next, which are the independent and which are the dependent variables? Are these control variables? Are these controllable? Is the hypothesis specific enough to be researchable? It is still meaningful. How certain I am of the relationships between or amongst the variables? Then next will be operational definition and measurement. One, does the problem need scoping, simplifying to make it achievable? Next, what and how will the variables be measured? Then, what degree of error in the finding is tolerable? How much of that error is tolerable so far as the research goes? Is that approach defendable? Can we defend the approach we are taking in the research? Next will be research design and methodology. What will be a researcher's strategy for doing this research? I'm writing all that in first person, my and me, right? So please take it, whosoever you are, that my and me or I, me is, the researcher being used for the research. So what is my overall strategy for doing this research? Because the research design and methodology is very important component of a research. So what is my overall strategy for doing this research? Will this design permit me to answer the research questions? And be very clear, we also have a research questions right in the beginning. So will this design permit me, the research methodology and the design which we are following, will be able to answer the research questions we have said before ourselves right in the beginning? This is important. And what constraints will the approach place on the work? The difficulties, the limitations, of course. Next, instrumentations and or sampling, whatever. How will I get the data I need to test my hypothesis? Next, what tools or devices will I use to make a record observations? Next, are valid and reliable instrumentations available? Or I must construct my own? Next, how will I choose the sample? Next, am I interested in representativeness? The sample. So the point here, the point makes is that are we interested, is the researcher interested in having a representativeness so far as the sampling is concerned? If so, of whom or what, and with what degree of accuracy and level of confidence? Next will be data analysis, very important component. Then next will be, I'm not able because of the paucity of time, I think, but I won't be able to give you the whole explanation of the whole thing. And I think it's not needed also. Many of you must be knowing exactly all these things. These are basic tools and things involved in our research, which we are doing. For data analysis, very important. What combinations of analytical and statistical process will be applied to the data? Data is one thing, but now what combinations? the analytical and statistical processes that also we have to talk about. Which of these will allow me to accept or reject my hypothesis? The next, do the findings show the numerical differences, and are those differences important enough? Now coming to conclusion, interpretations and recommendations. Was my initial hypothesis supported? Next, what if my findings are negative? No, please, please, I'm repeating it again. This is very important part of conclusions and interpretations. And of course, recommendations. Was my initial hypothesis supported? What if my findings are negative? Next, what are the implications of my findings for the theory base, or for the background assumptions, or relevant literature? Next, what suggestions can I make for further research on this topic? So now coming to the next research type, I'll be very brief. There are, as you all know, there are various types of research, but all of them come under two types of research. One is basic research, which is pure fundamental research. Involved, of course, is the discovery of new knowledge, theoretical in nature. The basic research is theoretical in nature, we all know about it. Takes many years for the research of basic, takes many years of basic, for the result of basic research to find some practical utility. You know, it takes a very long time before this basic research also finds some practical utility. But that doesn't mean, nevertheless, theoretical research is very important. Now coming to applied research, which is becoming very popular these days, of course, more so in the age of this market and the market forces, which determines to a large extent the researches being carried out in the labs. So the applied research its central purpose is to solve a problem. Next is improve products or processes. Third, that the applied research infers beyond the group or situation studied. And this applied research is an interpretation of results which relies upon basic research. So, of course, the importance of basic research cannot be taken away. In the applied field also, those things are being applied in order to make better results, in order to improve upon the products, the processes, etc. Now coming to functions of research, there are four functions of research, namely, one is basic research, which is designed to test or refine theory. Second, applied, for the applied function of research. This research is conducted in a field of common practice and concerned with the application and development of research-based knowledge. Then, of course, action research. This research is designed to solve a specific classroom or school problem, improve practice, or make a decision at a single local site. And then, of course, the fourth, and that is also nonetheless very important function of research, that is evaluation. This evaluation research is designed to assess the merit and worth or a specific practice in terms of the values operating at a site. Right. Now we are very familiar with these terms, that the research approaches. There are basically two approaches to the research approaches. One is quantitative and the other is qualitative. Yes. So I'm just briefly trying to define and touch upon the important things. Given the constraint of time, I'm not able to go into detail, and that needed also, I think. All of us mostly are teachers and research scholars, so we are quite familiar with these basic things. So I'm trying to differentiate and the differentiating characteristics of these two, quantitative and qualitative. Okay. So quantitative. What is quantitative? Tries to test the theory, establishes facts, shows relationships, predicts, or statistically describes. Whereas qualitative research, the characteristic of qualitative is this develops grounded theory, this develops understanding, this describes multiple realities, captures naturally occurring behavior. Now coming to the research design, let's have the characteristics of qualitative and quantitative. So in research design, the characteristic of quantitative research is this is highly structured, formal and specific, whereas in qualitative, this is unstructured, flexible and evolving. Coming to the participants, we find that in quantitative research, there are many participants, the representative of the group from which they were chosen using probabilistic sampling techniques, whereas this in qualitative, few participants chosen using non-probabilistic sampling techniques for specific characteristics of interest to the researchers. Coming to data collection and data analysis, we find that in quantitative research, there's a numerical data collected at specific times from tests or surveys and analyzed statistically, whereas in qualitative, narrative data collected over a longer period of time from observations and interviews and analyzed using interpretative techniques. Now I'm coming to the characteristics of researcher's role in quantitative as well as qualitative. So what is the researcher's role? In quantitative, they are detached, they are objective observers of events. Whereas in qualitative, participant observers reporting participants' perspectives understood only after developing long-term, close, trusting relationships with participants. And now the context also we have to think about. And the context will be in quantitative, manipulated and controlled settings will be there, whereas in qualitative we find naturalistic settings. So now I'm coming to the research designs. Right. Now I'm coming to quantitative design. That we are basically talking about the research designs, in which of course we'll be talking about the various designs involved, of course, quantitative and qualitative. So quantitative designs, of course, this will be experimental. This investigation, sorry, thank you. So this experimental, first we are coming to the experimental side of the quantitative designs. The investigation of causal effects through direct manipulation of an independent variable and control of extraneous variables. Next, an example of an experimental design. Which is, what is an example of our experimental design? Randomly assign students to one or two classrooms in which the same social studies unit is being taught. Teach the first class using the traditional lecture approach, the second class using cooperative learning groups. Then examine the achievement differences between the two groups to see if the type of approach to instruction had any effect. Then This study is characterized by the investigation of cause, that is instructional approach. This is also called instructional approach. And effect, that is achievement. Manipulation, that is choice of instructional approach. And control, which means same unit being taught, random assignment, etc. So differentiating the three types of experimental designs. True experimental is random assignment of subjects to groups. Next, quasi-experimental, which is non-random assignment of subjects to groups. Single subject, that is non-random selection of a single subject. Then we are coming to quantitative design. Okay. This is non-experimental. Now I'm coming to non-experimental. And in non-experimental, we all are now finally come all these explanations and discussions. The investigation of current state of a variable or the relationships other than causal between variables. This is one. Two, we find differentiating the four types of non-experimental things. One, descriptive. What is this? Makes careful description of the current situation or status of a variable. Then comparative also. Herein, there is comparison in two or more groups on some variable of interest. Then come correlational. This can also be correlational, which establishes a relationship between or among variables. Ex post facto. This is exploring possible causes and effects among variables that cannot be manipulated by the research. Then we are coming to qualitative. Then we are coming to the qualitative designs. That is research design, basically, we are talking about, in which earlier we talked about the quantitative. Now we are talking about the qualitative designs and the things involved in it. Much less precision in the definition. There is much less precision in this qualitative design, and distinctions between qualitative designs in comparison to quantitative designs are of course there. Four major categories of designs are involved in qualitative designs. One, case study. I think we all know about case study. I need not explain more about it. This is an examination of a specific instance of a phenomena in its natural context, viewed from the perspective of the participants. Then next is phenomenology. Phenomenology is a description of the meaning of an experience. Okay. Then we have ethnography. Ethnography is a description, the beliefs and practices of a cultural or social group or system. The purpose of this ethnography, I'm just explaining a little about ethnography. The purpose of this study is to identify and describe the conflicts that experienced second-grade teachers encountered as they switched from a traditional approach to a teaching mathematics to a constructivist sociological approach. Right. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. We all encounter this approach, of course, being a thing which has come from sociology, being practiced by an anthropology also, practiced by even mathematicians. So fourth is grounded theory. What is this grounded theory? Grounded theory is a description of a conceptual understanding of a particular phenomenon. And what is the purpose of this grounded theory study? The purpose of this study is to understand the relationship of the bar to the teachers who frequented it on Friday evenings. We found that teachers use the bar to facilitate their movement from professional to personal self. This all just trying to explain and trying to make you understand these important phenomena and important things associated with research. Now I'm coming to the analytical design, basically forming part of the research designs. And now I'll be talking about analytical designs. So analytical designs This is description of historical, legal, or policy issues through an analysis of documents, oral histories, and relics. I'm sorry. So there are two basic approaches involved in analytical designs. Two basic approaches here we'll be talking about. One, concept analysis. What is this concept analysis? This is study of educational concepts, that is cooperative learning, leadership, etc., to describe the different meanings and the uses of the concept. I'm just giving you an example of this concept analysis. The purpose of this study is to examine the meanings and uses of the term standards-based curriculum. Second, this study examines the varied needs, interpretations, and uses of an important curricular concept. Now, historical analysis. After concept analysis, coming to historical analysis. This is the systematic collection and criticism of documents that describes past events of relevance to education. An example of historical analysis, I'm just giving you, that the purpose of this study is to examine the changes in a standardized testing over the last 40 years. The study addresses the historical developments characterizing the use of standardized tests over a 40-year period. Now I'm coming to the research design. So mixed method designs also we apply in our research, which is called mixed method designs, in which we employ various other designs, not one but all, and so it's called mixed method designs, in which we use quantitative, qualitative methods within a single study, right? And we allow the researcher to better match the approach to gathering and analyzing data to the research questions. We are also giving relative emphasis to a particular method, and this also varies from research to research. Now, I'm coming to sampling. Of course, it's a very common thing, but still I'll just be touching upon, not in detail, but of course, I won't be able to do justice to this talk unless and until we talk about all these techniques and all these designs and all these involved in research. So there are two general approaches to sampling which are used in research. One is probability sampling and the other is non-probability sampling. In probability sampling, all elements, that is persons, households, in the population have some opportunity of being included in the sample. And the mathematical probability that any one of them will be selected can be calculated, right? But in non-probability sampling, population elements are selected on the basis of their availability. That is because they have volunteered, or because of the researchers' personal judgment that they are representative. The consequence is that an unknown portion of the population is excluded. One of the most common types of non-probability sample is called a convenience sample. A convenience sample, okay? So not because such samples are necessarily easy to recruit, but because the researcher uses whatever individuals are available rather than selecting from the entire population. Types of sample. So now we are talking about the various types of sample. So first, probability, that is random samples. Simple random sample, number one. Second, systematic random sample. Third, it can be a stratified random sample. Fourth, it can be a cluster sample. And fifth, it can be multi-stage sample. Similarly, coming to non-probability samples, we have at least four First will be convenience sample. The second will be purposive sample. Third will be quota. And the fourth will be snowball. Okay. So now we'll be talking about methods of data collection. What are the methods involved in collecting the data? So we must have the understanding of the methods, how the data is collected. So methods of data collection, that's why we call it. So primary data. How? So in primary data, we have questionnaire, schedule, survey, interview, and observation. Okay. So for collecting these primary data, we involve these 5 things, methods. For collecting the secondary data, we employ secondary data means data that is also available. That is, it may be either published or unpublished. We must know what is primary data and secondary data. Primary data, probably all of us know, doesn't need much of introduction and explanation. But the secondary data means data that is already available. That is, it may be either published or unpublished. Various publications of the central, state, or local governments. This can be various publications by foreign governments or international bodies and their subsidiary organizations, technical and trade journals. So all these things are published, unpublished. Okay. Now I'm coming to the sources of unpublished data. Okay. These are the diaries, letters, unpublished biographies and autobiographies, data available with research scholars and research workers, trade associations, labor bureaus, and other public, private individuals and organizations. Now I'm coming to questionnaire. Right. That is questionnaire, schedule, and survey. Okay. Now I'm coming to, although it's very commonly we employ it at various places, and we know most of you, all of you know about it, but still. So what are the characteristics of a good questionnaire? What are the characteristics of a good questionnaire? A good questionnaire deals with a significant topic so that it enthuses respondent to give response. Its significance is carefully stated on the questionnaire itself or on its covering letter. Next, it seeks only that data which cannot be obtained from the resources like books, reports, and records. It is as short as possible, though comprehensive and clear enough for securing all the essential information. It's attractive in appearance, neatly arranged, and clearly duplicated or printed. It contains directions which are clear and complete. Important terms are clarified, and each question deals with a single idea in unambiguous terms so that it's valid and reliable. The next important characteristics of a good questionnaire are items are arranged. Herein, items are arranged in categories to ensure easy and accurate responses. Next, the questions are objective with no clues, hints as to the responses desired. Heading questions are carefully avoided. Questions next are presented in good psychological order, proceeding from general to more specific responses. Double negatives and putting 2 questions in 1 question are also avoided. It's easy to tabulate. I mean, the questionnaire, no, should be such wherein this is easy to tabulate and interpret based on a pre-constructed tabulation sheet and a visualized final analysis of data. So these are the good, these are the qualities of a good questionnaire. And now we're coming to the advantages of questionnaire. As an instrument of data collection, the questionnaire has great potentialities when it is properly used. The questionnaire, great advantages of questionnaire we are talking about. Of course, questionnaire we all know is an instrument to collect data, right? It's very advantageous. It's economical both for the sender and for the respondent in time and cost as well. It's easy to plan, construct, and administer. When the subjects of the study are scattered far and wide, it will be a better tool as compared to the tools like interview. It permits nationwide or even international coverage. Next, next advantage, it permits group administration and is adaptable to any objectives. Information of a personal nature often may be obtained more readily by means of questionnaires. It places less pressure on the subject for immediate response. It helps in focusing the respondent's attention and on all the significant items. It may be used as a preliminary tool for conducting depth study later on by any other method. The responses given by the subjects are available in their own language and verse. No, but of course, there are limitations. That's very important to talk about. The limitations of a questionnaire, that its reliability and validity is low. It seeks secondary information concerning facts when primary evidence is not at hand. Frequently, questionnaire research constitutes simply a pooling of ignorance. It's compilation of the opinions of many persons who may not know the answer. It gives a biased sample. The matter of non-response is always a big question. The respondents who return the questionnaires may not constitute a representative section of the entire group. If the subject misinterprets a question or gives an incomplete or indefinite response, nothing can be done. A questionnaire is more or less rigid in its structure about complex emotional subjects. Some respondents may like to put their views on controversial issues in writing. The behaviors, gestures, reactions, emotions of respondents remain unnoticed. Some of the research areas are so delicate, sensitive, and confidential in nature that it becomes difficult to frame questions. The questionnaire cannot be used with illiterate subjects and their children. Now I'm coming to interview, of course, very important so far as the research goes. Types of interviews. It can be formal or structured interview. It can be informal or unstructured interview. In structured interviews, the same questions are presented in the same manner and ordered to each other subject, and choice of alternative answer is restricted to a predetermined list. These interviews are rightly standardized and formal, but they are more scientific in nature than unstructured ones. Now, unstructured interviews are flexible. Few restrictions are placed in respondents' answers. In this interview, one can penetrate behind initial answers, follow up unexpected clues. There can be a telephonic interview as well, which can be structured, which can be unstructured. Now, advantages of interview, just a few, and briefly touching on the advantages of interview. First, the interview with skillful interviewers is much superior to other data gathering devices. That's very important, that the skill of the interviewer is very important in interview. It's specifically appropriate when dealing with young children, illiterates, and in an abnormal state of mind. It's used for practical purposes rather than gathering data for research. In interview, the investigator can create a right type of friendly atmosphere for obtaining desired data. If necessary, the interviewer can give assurance to the interviewee that the facts will be properly used. It permits even exchange of ideas and information. It provides opportunity for give and take. The respondents' difficulties, like bad handwriting, poor expression, are also avoided as every schedule is filled by the interviewer. The personal contact with the respondent enables the interviewer to probe more deeply into character of the respondent. The data gathered through interviews have been found to be fairly reliable. The last, there is possibility of cross-questioning and putting supplementary questions. Now I'm coming to the limitations of interview, of course. What are the limitations of interview? This technique is time-consuming and one of the most difficult ones to employ successfully. There is constant danger of interviewer bias. The objectivity, sensitivity, and insight of the interviewer is crucial. This procedure requires a level of expertness, that is expertise not ordinarily possessed by an average research worker. Next, a busy person may prefer to fill out a questionnaire at leisure rather than submit to a long interview. The respondent suffers from four limitations. First, his or her experience as an interviewee, his or her judgment about himself, his or her accessibility about himself, herself, his her ability to express himself, herself clearly. Next, the recording of data from an interview is full of difficulties. Tape recording of the entire interview is likely to be expensive of time and money. This does not work well with infants, shy people, deaf people, and mad people. So friends, although I know that the subject may be a little dry, as research very openly described as a very dry area so far as intellectual activities go, but I think that all of us will have, that's the reason why let's have some intellectual activity. I'm giving it to you all for 10 minutes, of course. Thereafter, I will resume our interaction once again. So for all of you, I'm giving you an assignment, a research assignment. Please try to do it. Hope most of you are either MPhil or PhDs. Okay, must be familiar with research, basic research. So the first assignment for all of you, why research? Why do we go for research? Why? Why research? Why did you go for research? Supposing this is your MPhil or PhD. So the assignment asks all of you to write why did you go for your research, the particular topic. Have the justification why. And then, of course, we are also expecting you to write what has been your, oh wow, and how did you go about with your research? And finally, of course, could it vindicate your hypothesis? So these three questions, these three things, just three important things you please write in your assignment. Why did you choose your research topic? Maybe it may have been your MPhil, may have been your PhD, right? Or if neither of the two, then you may have written some article. So you can for why that article on that particular subject. So this why, I'm very interested in knowing why. Then how did you go about? And lastly, the third component of your write-up should suggest that your research findings could validate or could come up to your research hypothesis or not. So friends, this is an assignment for you. So please apply your mind for 10 minutes. Right, apply your mind to this assignment, and we'll again, after 10 minutes, I'll be coming back to you once again.
हाँ सर। The participants, you can write the assignment that is given by sir. You can write in the chat section, and after 5 minutes, we'll join back.
Okay, Rajiv?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Could I
Okay.
begin?
Yes.
Could I begin, Rajiv?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Start करें, sir.
Okay. So good morning once again. Good morning once again. And I think that my research assignment, which I have given to all of you, probably you have started applying your mind to it. And maybe before your induction program comes to an end, we'll be giving it to the organizers, I hope so. Okay. So let's start again. So now I'm coming to this observation part of which is very important so far as our research goes. What are the advantages of observation? Right. Hello, is it audible?
Yes, sir. Right. Yes.
So observation as a research technique is being refined and made exact to an extent that it's likely to make an important contribution in descriptive research. Next, significant aspects of personality which expresses themselves in behavior can be best studied directly through observation rather than indirectly through questionnaire and interview. Simple observation of physical aspects of building or school buildings or students and teachers, etc., is made through physical examination, measurement, assessment, and comparison with fixed standards. Observation of physical activity, as in games and in the workplace, is made directly very often for coaching purposes. Okay. Observation of physical activity, as in games and in workshop, is made directly very often for coaching purposes. Next, observation in the classroom is made to analyze learning behavior, which is a more complex phenomena, and to improve classroom performance. Then we have to talk about the limitations of observation, of course. Establishing the validity of observation is very difficult. Many of the items of observation cannot be defined with sufficient precision. Next limitation, that there is a problem of subjectivity is also there. A person tends to see what he knows, what she knows. Next, there is also the danger of concentrating in an observation on the aspects of limited significance simply because they cannot be recorded objectively and accurately. Next, there is also a possibility of distortion of the phenomena through the very act of observing. This danger is also there. Also, the observer tends to see what he or she wants to see. Right, this is another limitation, of course. Then usually when an observer goes to the scene, the situation is new to him or her. The incidents next described may be samples of rarely occurring behavior. The observer fails to obtain an adequate sample of data on the basis of which conclusions can be drawn. The next, lack of competence of the observer may hamper validity and reliability of observation. The people being observed become conscious and begin to behave in an unnatural manner. It's a slow but laborious process, of course. A particular situation which is desired to be observed might not occur for a very long time. The data may be unmanageable, it may be vast data, unmanageable. It would be difficult to arrange the behaviors along a continuum. So the behavior may not be in continuation, so that may be very difficult to observe. It's going to be a costly affair, no doubt. It involves expenses on traveling, staying at a place of phenomena. So coming to processing and analyzing of data, the type of analysis, I'm just describing it like that, right? Types of analysis could be descriptive analysis, correlational analysis, inferential analysis, multivariate analysis. A multiple regression analysis, we can also say multiple discriminant analysis, and this may be multivariate analysis of variance. Now, the process of analysis we talk about. The editing, the process of analysis consists of editing, coding, classification, and tabulation, of course. Then, in the processing and analyzing of data is a very important thing, that is triangulating data, then audits, then cultural bias, and then generalizations. Now coming to report writing, this is very important. We have to make a report, of course. The report writing is an important aspect of, important part of the research. How do you write report? Introduction, it has to have introduction, that is background. Then we have to have a literature review. Then we have to have objectives. Then we have to have research design, that is, and methods. And in research design and methods, we have to have sampling, data collection, and data analysis. Okay. Then we have to have findings, the report writing. We'll have the findings. Then we have to have limitations, of course. We have to write about the limitations of the research which has been carried out. And then we have to write conclusions and recommendations. And finally, we have to have references. Okay. Now, what will be the contents of the research proposal? That's important to know. What forms part of the contents of the research proposal? First will be introduction. Second will be background and its significance. Third will be literature review, that is national and international. Fourth will be statement of the problem. What is the problem? Fifth will be objectives of this study. I mean, the research being carried out. So this study, what were the objectives of the study? That's very important. Content. Then another will be research design and methods. Sorry. Next will be implications and relevance of this study. Next will be time budget, and then conclusions, and finally references. Now, ethics forms an important part of research. Ethics, of course, ethics have to be observed and adhered to. Values, values. We have to think of the values. Then professional values, reporting, credits, and plagiarism. No, we have to have all these values very clearly enshrined. Ethics have to be adhered to in our research. While in data gathering also, we have to observe these values: voluntary participation, informed consent, right? The consent has to be, they have to be informed before they give their consents. No harm, that is privacy, anonymity, and confidentiality, which we call in research as PAC. Okay. So PAC has to be observed, the privacy, the anonymity, and the confidentiality have to be observed. So this is part of the ethics in research which we are supposed to follow and adhere to. Now, I'm coming to the types of research we need or we do. No? One is curative, that is cautionary research versus precautionary research. Curative may be the solution research, in other words, easy to understand. Curative is the sort of problem is there and the research is being carried out in order to find out a solution to a problem, which is called curative research or cautionary research. The other one may be precautionary research. Precautionary, we may, in other words, call it futuristic research. The problems may not be there right then, but considering the importance of this topic in future, we go about the research. So one can be curative, the other one can be precautionary research. Then can be subject specific. It can also be versus subject specific versus interdisciplinary research. Then we may have a primary research versus secondary research, in which we have to go for tools for data collection, data quality, data validity. These are very important. Research for social relevance. Why we go for research? So there are researches which go for its social relevance as well. It has to be futuristic in nature also. Now I'm coming to, that is the part 3, in which we are talking about research in higher education, right? Especially here in India, of course, in the Indian context. I'll be briefly touching upon the topics. So the academic research, in academic research, what we go about, that is for MA, MPhil, PhD, DLit, etc. Non-academic research, there comes funding institutions, that is UGC, DST, ICSSR, DRDO, etc., etc. Specialized institutions, that is ministries and NGOs. Self-exploration and passion, of course, that could be another area. Research at the level of individual, that is independent research, joint research project, a government project, there can be a private project. Okay. At institutional level, academic research, what we come across is academic research at institutional level, research project, government project, and private project. Now I'm coming to research in higher education. The head I'm talking about, that is rethinking learning, teaching and research. We the teachers must find and establish a new equilibrium and a new normal for learning amid the present challenges. A teacher should always be ready for the change. Being dynamic is a key to survive. But here I'll just be referring to the present crisis we all are, the whole globe is grappled with, coronavirus, and its, the form and the magnitude, and the whole world and globe is suffering. We the teachers here can think in terms of how we are, many of us probably are doing it. So I'm just trying to refer to this in order to make you understand that rethinking learning, teaching, and research, and wherein teacher must be need to be very dynamic. Right? That teacher is a very important component of the whole process of research here, so far as the university system goes, so far as the institutions of higher education goes. Right? So with the teachers supposed to be, we are supposed to be dynamic. For instance, in the present scenario, the world is grappled with this pandemic, corona. Herein we are devising, many of us are devising also probably, many of the universities worldwide are devising new pedagogies, how to reach to the maximum people here in this whole, when the whole institutions are being closed down. So new pedagogies are being evolved, and teacher becomes an important component, as they are supposed to be dynamic, and they are. Historically here in India, we find the teachers being very dynamic. I mean, go to ancient India, we find how dynamic teachers have been. Even today, I don't think that many of us, many of the teachers, many of the universities across the globe are trying to come out with solutions to the present pedagogy, which is probably not proving sufficient in the days when we are closed as institutions. So research for quality of teaching and student learning. This is very important, that research for the quality of teaching, research which enhances the quality of teaching and student learning. Herein, research for assessment, new paradigms in teaching and learning in higher education. That is graduation. We can think of new paradigms in graduation, post-graduation, MPhil, PhD, and post-PhD. Research demands for specific research skills and capacity. It combines both quantitative and qualitative methodology based on the study of a wide range of research and settings. Now I'm coming to purpose of research. The purpose is academic development. The purpose is professional development. The purpose is national development. The purpose is social development. The purpose is technological development. So all these are the purposes why we go for research. The quality of research work directly translates to the quality of teaching and learning in the classroom, thereby benefiting the students, the society, and the country at large. The promotion of research in a huge, diverse country like India will help the nation evolve as a knowledge reservoir in the international arena. Our education system faces a number of constraints and challenges. Quality research is one of them. Barring few prestigious institutes, most display a dismal picture in terms of quality and quantity research. Not many institutes have mandatory research goals for individual faculty, and most do not have adequate system or infrastructure for quality research. The lack of an encouraging academic environment, ill-equipped libraries, labs and equipment, inadequate infrastructure, lack of funds, faculty crunch, etc., are some of the factors contributing to the dismal picture of research in Indian academic institutions. Now, there's a need for research in higher education. First, teaching will improve if the staff engages in research. That is, research-based teaching. Now, how? Teaching research results, making research known, showing what it means to be a researcher, helping to conduct research, providing research experience. So the head will be teaching will improve if the staff engages in research. The students will learn more if they come in contact with research. That is, the research-based learning will be more beneficial for the students as well. Students are provided with an overview of the basic facts, terms, and ideas related to the discipline. Second, students learn about research findings in the field through lectures and readings dedicated to current research. Students discuss and critique research findings and approaches in the discipline. Assignments include literature reviews or summaries. Students learn some research methodologies, engaged in limited applications of those approaches in course assignments, such as statistical analysis. Students learn in a course dedicated to the research methodologies, engage in extensive applications of a variety of approaches. Students engage in faculty designed and led original research such as replication of existing studies. Students engaged in student designed and led original research, such as senior thesis or capstone projects. Professional practice will improve if professional workers in their training learn how to base their work on research-based knowledge. Now, what is this? What is this research-based practice? To integrate. What is this research-based practice? Research-based practice is to integrate the practice of research. It's important to learn how to base curriculum aligned to the practice of research. Next, professional programs have an obligation to improve the knowledge basis of professional work through research. Research-based knowledge production, what this is all about. The main concern of this point is the importance of doing research to enhance evidence-based knowledge. The knowledge, evidence-based, not that knowledge on hearsay, right? Evidence-based knowledge we are talking about here. So this will be a much useful thing. Now, what to do for more research-based teaching learning? We have to decide that education and research are equally important. We need to appoint at least one university professor of research education. These are suggestions. Can establish a university center for teaching and learning. We may build a university teaching and learning house. We can link research and teaching committees. We can bridge any divide between research staff and teaching staff. We can appoint only academics who excel in both research and teaching. Of course, by giving weightage to research while appointing people when this can be achieved. Strengthening positive attitudes to research by students among staff and students. Making resources available for students to do research. Making it possible that libraries give information literacy instructions to students. Creating and stimulating opportunities for dissemination of successful practices. Recognizing teaching excellence. Introduce an undergraduate student research award. We can monitor the growth of research-based teaching. Or we can order and finance more research of the teaching research. But there are, of course, these are the good suggestions I could suggest, I could think of, but then there are challenges too many to academic research. Funding is one important challenge. Public funding for academic research, including basic research, is not meeting the needs. Funding needs include, but are not limited to. We have to have respect for research within institutions. Academic freedom. We need to give academic freedom to our faculties. The academic freedom of researcher is threatened by a variety of non-academic forces. Situations repeatedly arise where public-private funders assert influence over research priorities and tamper with findings. Those funding research should not be allowed to exercise control over, edit, or limit dissemination of findings with which they might disagree. Intellectual property. Academic researchers are often deprived of their intellectual property rights. That is, instances of copyright infringement, conflicts around the ownership of research data and findings, and restrictions on publication and presentation of findings by private funders. Such disputes can negatively affect the tenure process for non-tenured faculty. For faculty conducting international research, there may be other barriers due to different or fewer legal protections of their intellectual property rights. So these are some challenges to academic research. So now, coming to the education budget, which is very important. that the allocation, budgetary allocation is very important when we are talking of and taking an overview of research in higher education here in India. That's very important to know the educational budget over the years. This is expenditure budget 2020 and 21. Right. Department of School Education and Literacy. I'm just concerned with Department of Higher Education here right now, because we are just taking an overview of research in higher education. So not considering school education here right now. So the Department of Higher Education, what is the education sector outlay? In the financial year 2020, this is 38,317 crores, which has been revised in 21, financial year 21 to 39,004,066. Indian Institute of Technology, they had 6,559.9.5 crores in the financial year 2000. And it has been revised to 7,332 crores. Indian Institute of Management, that is IIMs, they had 500 crores in financial year 2000, revised to 476 in financial year 2021. Improvement in salary scale of teachers, 1,800 crore in financial year 2000, revised to 1,900 crores in financial year 2021. Now I'm coming to the education budget. Just let me. The budget earmarked for 99,300 crores for education sector in 2020-21 and about 3,000 crores for skill development. The government's total spending had actually shrunk to 3.3% this year from 3.5% a year ago. Compared this to an Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development country. Members of this group of nations, mostly developed ones from Europe, spend an average of 4.5%. This is a 4,500 crore rise from last year, for the government allocated 9,400 and 800 crores. The minister stated that the budget would be focused on three tenets: aspirational India, economic development, and caring society. In the higher education sector in particular, the outlay for the improvement of salary scale of teachers has been hiked from 1,800 crore in 2020 to 1,900 crore in 21. Budget allocated to IITs has been hiked from 6,559 to 7,332 crores in 21, but budget allocated to IIM has been reduced a little. With worst of overall economic crisis and downturn, one cannot expect better than this budget. But then, nevertheless, about 150 higher educational institutions will start apprenticeship, embedded degree, diploma courses by March 2021. Degree level online education program has also been provided. Now I'm coming to the total universities in India. Just a figure. There are 412 state universities, deemed universities 124, central universities 53, private universities 356, total 945. This is according to UGC till June 2020. These are data I have collected from UGC. Now, I'm just looking at the watch to find out how much time I'm left with. Maybe 20 minutes more. I'll try to wind up my interaction in another 20 minutes. Although there are very many things to talk about, but then I have to be a little brief and I have to leave certain things for your own wisdom. No, this is a survey on higher education. Right. This survey covers all institutions of higher education in the country, registered with AISHE code in AISHE portal, www.aishe.government.in. Institutions are categorized in three broad categories: university, college, and state-alone institutions. There are 993 universities, 39931 colleges, 10725 standalone institutions listed on HEI web portal, and out of them 962 universities, 38179 colleges, and 9190 standalone institutions have responded during the survey. 298 universities are affiliating, that is having colleges. Okay. 385 universities are privately managed. 394 universities are located in rural areas. 16 universities are exclusively for women, 3 in Rajasthan, 2 in Tamil Nadu, 1 in Andhra Pradesh, and then of course Bihar and all that. In addition to 1 central open university, 14 state open university and 1 state private open university, there are 110 dual mode universities which offer education through distance mode also, and the maximum 13 of them are located in Tamil Nadu. There are 548 general, 142 technical, 63 agricultural and allied, 58 medical, 23 law, 13 Sanskrit, and 9 language universities, and the rest 106, that is 106 universities are of other categories. The top 8 states in terms of highest number of colleges in India are Uttar Pradesh. The top 8 states in terms of highest number of colleges in India are Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra, Karnataka, Rajasthan, Haryana, Tamil Nadu, Gujarat, and Madhya Pradesh. Bangalore urban district tops in terms of number of colleges with 880 colleges, followed by Jaipur with 566 colleges. Top 50 districts have about 32.2% of colleges. College density, the number of colleges per lakh eligible population, varies from 7 in Bihar to 53 in Karnataka as compared to all India average of 28. 60.53% colleges are located in rural areas. 11.04 colleges are exclusively for female. Only 2.5 colleges run PhD programs, and 34.9 colleges run postgraduate level programs. There are 34.8 colleges which run only single program, out of which 83.1% are privately managed. Among these privately managed colleges, 38.1% colleges run B.Ed courses only. 77.8 colleges are managed. 77.8% colleges are privately managed. 64.3% private aided, and 13.5 private aided. No, I'm sorry, I'm repeating this data. 64.3% private unaided and 13.5% private aided. Yeah, I'm sorry. I stand corrected, I stand. So Andhra Pradesh and Uttar Pradesh have about 88% private unaided colleges, and Tamil Nadu has 87% private unaided colleges, whereas Assam has 16%. 16.3% of the colleges are having enrollment less than 100, and only 4% colleges have enrollment more than 3,000. Total enrollment in higher education has been estimated to be 37.4 million, with 19.2 million male and 18.2 million female. Female constitute 48.6% of the total enrollment. Gross enrollment ratio in higher education in India is 26.3%, which is calculated for 18 to 23 years of age group. GR for male population is 26.3%, and for females it is 26.4%. For scheduled caste, this is 23%, and for scheduled tribes, this is 17.2% as compared to the national GR of 26.3%. Distance enrollment constitute about 10.62% of the total population in higher education, of which 44.15 are female students. About 79.8% of the students are enrolled in undergraduate level program. 169,170 students are enrolled in PhD. That is less than 0.5% of total students. This is important. That 0.5% of student population are enrolled for PhD program. This is important for us. Right. At undergraduate level, the highest number of students, that is 30.9%, are enrolled in arts, humanities, social science courses, followed by science 16.5, engineering and technology 13.5, and commerce 14.1%. At PhD level, maximum number of students are enrolled in science stream, followed by engineering and technology. This is an important point for us, that at PhD level, maximum number of students are enrolled in science stream, followed by engineering and technology. On the other hand, at postgraduate level, maximum students are enrolled in social science stream, and management comes at number 2. Okay. So I'm skipping some of the data in order to do justice to the time also given to me, in order to wind up my discussion within the stipulated time. So 40,818 students were awarded PhD level degree during 2018, with 23,765 males and 17,048 females. So this is a figure of PhD level degrees awarded in the year 2018. Of course, at PhD level, maximum number of students outturn is in science stream. This is again to be noted, that maximum number of students enrolled at PhD is in science stream, followed by engineering and technology. But on the other hand, PG level maximum students outturn is observed in social science. This is again, something not that easy to understand, though maximum number of students at PG we find they are in social science, but at PhD level, maximum number of students are in science stream, followed by engineering and technology. So this data we have to understand why. The share of PhD students is high in the share of PhD students is highest in state public university, followed by Institute of National Importance, deemed university, then private, and then state private university. So in state public university, the PhD students are 34.3%, followed by Institute of National Importance, 21.6%. In deemed university, they account for 21.6%. And in state private university, they account for 13.4%. Now I'm coming to PhD in India. About PhD in India, about 79.8% of the students are enrolled in undergraduate level program. 1,69,170 students are enrolled in PhD. That is less than 0.5% of the total student enrollment. Without sufficient emerging researches, India's research capability will remain deficient and hurt the competitiveness of Indian universities in global university ranking. Even more importantly, a relatively low number of PhDs will also hurt the country's overall research and development potential, unless we foolishly subscribe to the view that doctoral level research is not particularly relevant to a country's future. That will be very foolish to understand that this doctoral level research is not relevant to country's future. The enrollment in PhDs jumped 50% between 2011 and 2017, leading UGC to invite proposals for a 6-month study to assess the quality of thesis in the past decade. Now coming to the patent thing, universities and patent benefit each other. Patent help universities to improve their ranking, establish innovation ecosystem, incubate knowledge-based startups, earn additional revenue, and measure research activity. Only 1/5 of the over 25,000 applications filed by Indian institutes from 2009 to 19 were granted patent. This is a government statement in the parliament, which I am talking about. The figure is from the parliamentary answer from the government to a question put by a member. In a written response to a question in Rajya Sabha, Science and Technology Minister Harshvardhan said that from 2009 to 2019, that is up to November 24, 25,200 patent applications were filed by different institutes in the country. CSIR filed 2,413. 3751 applications were filed by IITs, 2016 by the National Institutes of Technology, and 998 by DRDO. He added that 25,200 applications, patents were granted to 5089 cases only. Of those, a major chunk went to CSIR, followed by IITs, the DRDO, and NITs. So historically, there is a question of brain drain also. Historically, many graduates of the IITs moved to the US or other countries to complete postgraduate studies or to launch their degrees. I'm giving you just a data to, we'll be running short of time, so I'll try to wind up. I'll try to wind up my interaction in the given stipulated time. Now, from 1964 to 2001, this is with regard to brain drain, the figure, 30% of IIT graduates went to US, while 9% did from 2002 to 2008. The reasons for staying at home are not only related to improved conditions in India. Of the graduates from 2002 to 2007 who said they wanted to move to US when they graduated, 35% didn't go, citing reasons including stricter visa regulations, high cost of living, limited number of scholarships, high tuition fees, and reduced employment opportunity. The survey also shows that IIT graduates are expanding their career choices beyond traditional engineering and technology opportunity. There has been a marked shift towards consulting and financial services. Among the Asian countries, India continued its trend of being the top country of birth for immigrant scientists and engineers, with 950,000 out of Asia's total of 2.96 million. India's 2013 figure represented an 85% increase from 2003. India is a developing country, so why are our young engineers, entrepreneurs, and scientists flying off to foreign countries? This is something we, the policymakers, have to ponder over, have to think about. The academics also have to think about. The policymakers in particular, they have to think about why this brain drain. And now the last part of my interaction, and here I'd like to propose my own proposal. You may call it my own proposal in order to bridge the gap or in order to improve upon the research here in India, especially in the higher educational institutions. Briefly, Kothari Commission was the first in 1960, which talked about and articulated the concept of extension. And a word has been used, Trinity. Trinity, that is, this Trinity is not Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh. This Trinity in terms of education, UGC and Kothari Commission talked about. This is teaching, research, and extension. The Commission stated that extension was an essential activity for making education relevant to real life situations, for preventing the alienation of educated from society, for developing in the educated a sense of responsibility towards society, for deepening the teacher's knowledge through a wider exposure to real life situations. And fortunately and luckily, thanks to UGC, that the first incorporated extension in its policy statement for higher education in 77, when it stated that if the university system has to discharge adequately its responsibility to the entire education system and to the society as a whole, it must assume extension as the third important responsibility and give it the same status as teaching and research. This is a new and extremely significant area which should be developed on the basis of high priority. So extension works as a bridge between university and community. Sadly, the university system has not been giving its attention to this important third component, that is extension. Teaching, research, and then extension. Extension is not being given the priority, the attention it demands in the university system, where we all are teaching in various capacities. The main aim behind inclusion of extension as third dimension of educational system, equivalent to teaching and research respectively, was to disseminate the knowledge acquired from research for the welfare of community and explore the new areas for research. In other words, the main aim behind introducing the third dimension in education system was to promote a meaningful and sustained rapport between the universities and the community. Sadly, this is not happening. This has not happened till now. So, I'm proposing an extension incubation center, which can go a long way in meeting the third component of education university system, that is extension, more fruitful, and the whole university system more meaningful in the whole, and that is how it can deliver. It can contribute a larger role in the nation building and in the sustained development of the country. I'm proposing that we can have an extension incubation center. In short, I'm giving it a name EIC. Of course, this I'm proposing that we can have in the Department of Adult Continuing Education and Extension, which also has a mandate and which is a interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary center imparting education in MA in lifelong learning and extension. And the department is also running short-term courses. Right. So I'm proposing that we can have an so I'm also proposing, so I'm sorry, I was a little here. So I'm proposing that this EIC can serve a meaningful purpose in realizing the stated aim of having a trinity in education. So teaching and research, and then of course, EIC, which can go along with realizing the extension needs. And this extension is very important. We are talking of the research. So unless and until we have this extension approach, you can't have the topic of research. You cannot have research, the real research. Where from you can have the material and topics of research, unless and until you interact with the community. So just in brief, I'm introducing this concept, which I propose for all of you to think about. And I'm also proposing it to various places. The Extension Incubation Center is an idea which bridges the gap between corporates and the universities. This model will bring university and corporate under one roof, where corporate get researches for their CSR activities and university get fund from corporate or extension that is taking research outcome to the community as well as further research. Because we can have further researches if you go to the community with the outcome of research, right? When we go to the community with the research outcome, we apply it to the community, we find whether this is adequate, whether this is inadequate, whether it's done, whether it's not done. Then again, it throws up further research questions, and that can reinvigorate, that can refresh the minds of the researchers. So it can act also as a fodder for research. The key outcomes of EIC are this will encourage social science researchers, this will encourage social science researchers, provide researchers a base to test their research outcomes, provide job opportunities to the research students. So this in brief, although the time was a great constraint, and maybe I have not been able to touch upon various things, nor I could explain the various tools. I've tried in brief to do that, but still because of time, I know I have not been able to do justice to the topic. But I have also one more thing I'd like to share with all of you, that you all are mostly teachers. This is what I'm made to understand. So you all know this is also was not my purpose. Since the topic was I was talking about and taking an overview of research in higher educational institutions, I was just trying to talk about all these tools of research. But then what is uppermost in my mind, I've also not been a great researcher, for all of you to understand that I don't lay claim to being a great researcher. I have started probing and I have started going into this area of research, and I have deliberately chosen this topic today to speak on, to interact on. I mean, the reason being that I'll be able to share my ideas with all of you. Supposing we all are mostly university system. So the problems are the course, the faculty. We do not have flexibility in course designing. Supposing I'm teaching at PG level and I'm doing some special studies and project in the area of sustained social development. If there is flexibility in course designing to a faculty, I'll be giving that course and sharing with my students at PG that project, and that will be enriching and that will be helping the objectives, the research objectives of the project as well. But that flexibility in course of, with regard to course designing, we do not have in the universities. So that is one great lacuna and limitation, probably not leading to the desired research in Indian universities. This is lack of flexibility to faculty in terms of drawing their design, drawing their syllabus. This is one. Then the second important thing which probably is needed is to have more of interdisciplinary and transdisciplinarity in terms of our studies. So to encourage interdisciplinary studies and to encourage transdisciplinarity, these two things also need to be encouraged if we want to have a better research objectives and better research results. And then only we can have, we can think of good ranking globally, because these things are important. No, one more thing I like to say, though I am part of the university system, I'm also to be blamed. Not that I'm blaming others. I'm just trying to understand the problem. The problem is that hardly any effort is being made at experimentation in the universities. There is hardly any experiment being made. And in this context, a little effort which was made in DU few years back in the shape of FYUP was a little effort, not saying that this was the final thing, but an effort was made to introduce research and other things at the undergraduate level. Probably somehow, unfortunately, this was withdrawn later on, but I find lack of such endeavors and efforts being made in different universities at experimentation. We need to experiment. Unless and until we experiment, we go for it, we encourage people to go for experiments, faculty for experiment, we won't be able to have the desired results in the areas of research. So I think that I'll try to, probably this is time, I'll say that I'll be winding up the discussion. And so let me conclude with the lines of Jayashankar Prasad in Kamaini, that ज्ञान दूर कुछ किया भिन्न है, ज्ञान दूर कुछ क्रिया भिन्न है, इच्छा क्यों पूरी हो मन की, एक दूसरे से मिल नहीं पाए, यह विडंबना है जीवन की. So this I am saying, so this I am saying that in order to get rid of this vidambana or this irony, and the irony is we need to strive balance in all the three things, that is knowledge and action and desire. If we desire to have, no, being very good in global ranking so far as research goes, no, only desire can't bring about the result. There need to be synergy among the three important things. And that is why I have chosen these lines from Kamaini or Jayashankar Prasad, that we need to have knowledge, synergy between knowledge, action, and desire. In that situation, हमारा वह ज्ञान, वह जो India is known for, the ancient India in particular, we have had such a research, such an innovations we had such an innovative, and we are the first ones to have the university system in the world. So now in global ranking, we find we are nowhere, our best of institutions, we don't find them getting ranked at the appropriate level. Why it's happening? Even best of the best coming to IITs, best of the best coming to various good universities of India. If we look at the result of patent, the scene is very dismal. I have just given you the data, the answer from a minister, which was given in the parliament. Right? See, this is something, a sorry state of affairs. That doesn't mean that we don't have that potential, that don't have the research ability. But we need to devise our education system also. This is time. Probably the new education policy is to take shape. So through this, I'm also appealing to the government that please, you have taken probably the stakeholders into consideration, have more of consultations, and devise the educational policy so that we can be proud of our ancient and glorious past. This can be done only if there is a synergy. This is possible only when we are allowing this rest vichar to come from wherever it comes from. This is there in our Rig Veda. So let that rest vichar come from wherever it comes, no matter this or that and X and Y, but let it be, and then only we'll be able to be at the top of the globe again, once again, and we'll be able to be Vishwa Guru, which he used to be earlier in early times. Thank you very much, and thank you once again to all of you for giving a patient hearing to me. I'll be inviting questions also. Your organizers may be telling you, but please, I'll be interested in the area instead of going into the theoretical research. I'll be interested in knowing your mind. What prevents you from going into research? Or what according to you better, I like to invite comment from you instead of questions, because I'm also trying to understand the whole thing. And so far as these tools, theoretical tools, and these all paradigms, survey, sampling, all things are everywhere in any book. So what I'm interested in knowing about, the thing which I have proposed before you, the excavation, incubation, the extension incubation center, a new model I have just proposed. And also your own thought and views pertaining to why research is not being done the manner in which it should have been in institutes of higher education here in India. So I'll be interested more into this aspect and more into the aspect of extension activity. I'll be drawing your attention that how can these researches being carried out in various universities and departments can be taken to the community. So I'll please have your comments, have your questions on that, and I'll be welcoming all of you. Please, I'm welcoming questions from you. Please. Thank you very much once again for giving a patient hearing to me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for such a nice lecture. We have some questions from participant side. Deepika Jain is asking, please explain hypothesis. Please tell us about hypothesis.
You know, although I'm explaining this, but Deepika, through you, I'm all through organizers. Organizers, please also make it known to the participants that I'll be more interested in comments. Okay. So all these things we can have anywhere in the book, because I was giving a lecture on this, so I've been giving it. I'm just coming to this hypothesis wala, right question. But please, organizers, you suggest, you please let it be communicated to the that I'll be more interested in their comments on the extension part. I have just introduced a new concept of Extension Incubation Center. Right. And please, I'll be more interested and will be happy if the participants are giving some comments on that. So far as hypothesis is concerned, right? Deepika, you can have in any book, any good book on research methodology and research. But since you have raised this question, this is where I have something to share with all of you. Hypothesis, technically speaking, before you start and engage in a research, you are going for something. You have some hypothesis. In Hindi, we call it parikalpana. You have some parikalpana. For instance, Dalton's atomic theory you may talk about. But Dalton could theorize much later. But whose hypothesis was this? The hypothesis was once earlier propounded by Avogadros, no other person than Avogadros. That parikalpana, the hypothesis talks about, supposing you are Newton and you are in an orchard and you are seeing a fruit coming down to earth. That makes you think why it's happening. And then you start thinking about the whole process. So this parikalpana is an important document in hypothesis. In hypothesis, you think about why it's happening. And this why makes you go for. And this why makes you go for the entire process of research. At times that may be structured, that may not be structured. At times you may get answer, you may not get answers to various hypotheses. So, but the questions arise. You have been able to, think about a particular development. That arouses in you, right? That arouses in the curiosity. And that curiosity is making you think about a particular development, as in the case of atoms, Avogadro's hypothesis. As in the case of the theory, atomic theory, which was propounded by Dalton. So Dalton took a cue from the hypothesis, which was propagated much, much earlier by Avogadro. So Deepika, Deepika, because I'm not directly interacting with you, so I hope that you are a faculty. So I'll be more interested in knowing that why it's happening. It's a question from my side, organizers. You please put it across the audience, the participants, that why this is so, that there is lack of creativity amongst our students and faculty. Why it's so? I'm just trying to interact, since this is not a physical way in which we are face to face. So I'm through organizers, I'm putting this question across the audience and participants, that why it's happening, that lack of such hypothesis. Why this creativity is not, best of the best brains are coming to IITs, best of the best. What is the state of affairs so far as the patent goes for the IITs? Why is happening that the best of the best brains, once joining a particular institution as great as IIT, not finally coming out with anything which can get patent to the institution? Why it's happening? This is something which I told you that I'm also not a great researcher. I have started going into this area maybe a few years back. This is really agitating my mind, and so I thought it to speak on this, not because I'm a great person to talk on this, but just to share my agony and pain. Why it's happening that best of the best brains, though coming to us, are finally turned into a mediocre. Mediocrity is being promoted. Is there something wrong with the pedagogy? Is there something wrong with the manner in which we are teaching? Is there something wrong with the syllabus, with the curriculum we are having? So this we need to look into. We need to revisit all these things in order to find that. And then only, I think I have answered your question, hypothesis, parikalpana. But organizers, once again, I am requesting all of you that so far as these questions are concerned, So please, if you are able to hear me, the participants, please comment on this idea, why this is happening. Yes, thank you. Yes.
Ashish sir.
Hello. Haji. Hello.
Ma'am.
Sir, there are lots of questions from the participant side, but we have time constraint. So I will send the comments and the questions to you. So, once again, sir, thank you so much for enlightening us on the very important topic of higher education and share the knowledge with the participants. I hope participants will really benefited from it and enjoying your lectures. You have handled the queries so nicely. So once again, thank you for accepting our invitation. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, giving us time from your busy schedule. Thank you once again, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Hello. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sahil sir.
लाइव रोको.
Sahil sir. Sahil sir, are you there?
No, he is not there.
He is host now. He can stop the live, I think.
So I am quitting now, Rajiv.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, you do.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
किसी और को होस्ट बना दूं क्या?
फाइल को फोन कर लो.
बना दो ना, बना के बंद करो ना.
नहीं, साइल
मैं नहीं
होस्ट है,
बना
वही बना
पाऊंगी ना,
सकता है ना
अब तो
फिर.
वही हो ना होस्ट. हाँ,
वही है ना.
फोन करो यार, फोन कर भाई.
रिकॉर्डिंग तो बंद हो गई.
सर रिकॉर्डिंग बंद कर दी मैंने.
अच्छा, आपने बंद किया. सचिन सर किया फोन?
स्विच ऑफ आ रहा है.
वेरी गुड.
अब मैं वापस तो नहीं बन पाऊंगी ना होस्ट.
हम लोग कर ही नहीं पाएंगे.
सर ये रिकॉर्डिंग लैपटॉप में सेव हो जाएगा ना?
और लाइव रिकॉर्डिंग चल रहा है अभी. करो भैया कुछ दोस्त. शुक्ला जी.
Only host can stop, sir.
अरे वो तो हम समझ गए भैया, तो कैसे होगा? वो तो मैं समझ रहा हूँ आपकी बात.
I'm calling him on WhatsApp.
कॉल करो यार, कॉल करो.
सर स्विच ऑफ आ रहा है, फोन नहीं लग पा रहा है.
तो कैसे होगा यार? दोस्त क्या करेंगे हम लोगों को बताओ. क्या करें ये बताओ ना.
वो होस्ट भी नहीं बनाया उसने किसी को.
अरे को होस्ट तो एक दो को बना देना चाहिए. क्या किया जाए ये बताइए ना.
आशीष सर. आशीष नहीं है. आशीष लीव करे सर.
लीव कर तो जाएंगे. लीव इज नॉट ए इशू. लीव तो हम लोग कर ही जाएंगे. लीव करने में हम लोग को कौन सा समय लगना है.
सर फोन नहीं लग रहा है. मैंने व्हाट्सएप भी ट्राई कर लिया, बेल जारी, स्विच ऑफ आ रहा है. व्हाट्सएप ट्राई किया, नहीं उन्होंने उठाया.
अच्छा. क्या किया जाए?
Ashish, Ashish,
sir,
you are
host
host now.
Hello. Hello.
Ashish,
Sahil sir, live बंद करिए.
साहिल,
Hi, Sahil.
Yes, sir.
अब आशीष होस्ट हो गया